All right, welcome to another Conscious Builder Live. And today I'm excited. We have my friend Brandon Fong on with us. So welcome, Brandon. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on the stage with Casey.
This new virtual stage, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Brandon and I met a couple of years ago now when we opened the meditation studio, or in the process. I don't even know if it was open yet, but anyways, in the process
Yeah.
of opening it. And since then, our paths have continued to cross and we've kind of just been flowing with it. And it's brought us to today, ultimately. And we have lots of other things on the go too. But I thought it would be really great to have you on, Brandon, because of what we were talking about in the past with regards to really the word conscious and these decisions that we're making and these new habits that we're creating, whether we're aware of them or not. Right. You and I talk about this a lot, and it's something that we work on, personally on our own time. And I thought it would be really great to talk about that. So once again, thanks for being here. I'm excited to get into this. But let's give our listeners a little bit of background on who you are and what you're doing now. Like now you are a speaker and transformational coach, but that hasn't always been the case.
No, not at all, actually. So I don't even know where to start because there's just so much to talk about. But I guess where everything kind of changed for me, I grew up here in Ottawa. I was born and raised in Ottawa. First generation. My mom's Korean, my dad's Chinese. Didn't come from your traditional background in a sense, so really progressive family. My mom has always been like my role model. She's just phenomenal, love her to bits. And both my parents graduated from U of T, so I figured, as a young kid, I was like always going to Toronto and like had a cool cousin over there, and we just like hang out. I was like, I want to be in Toronto. And so I ended up going to U of T, and that's kind of where I earned my stripes, so to speak. And I found myself eventually in my mid-20s living in downtown Toronto at College Park. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's like right at Yonge and Bloor, right around there, Yonge and College, so I should say. And I was like 26 years old, and like I had this like insane career. I'd like hustled so hard through university. I got all the right jobs and made all the right contacts. And like by the time I graduated, I had like 3 job offers. And like I got poached into like this like management training program for this broker. And then like just being there for a year, another company said, no, we want you. And then like I was 26 and I was like, wow, like how did I even get here? But like, even though I had all that stuff, like, what I mean? Like the money, like the respect, this guy's going places. I hated what I was doing. Like I was completely miserable. And it's the classic example that money cannot buy happiness. And and what I later learned was like I was at conflict with my own values, and that's
So
why I didn't like what I was doing.
were you chasing
And
these
so
things?
over time, yeah. Sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Were you chasing these things because of you thought somebody else wanted you to achieve them? Like, were you doing it for somebody
Yes,
else?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, it was really like making my dad proud. You know what I mean? And like my parents proud, and like my grandparents proud, like firstborn son stuff, right? And that's exactly it. I wasn't doing it for me, and so it chipped away. And over time, my health kind of deteriorated, and it got pretty bad, really bad, and to the point where I started having like actual health side effects when I kept going down this particular path. And I don't know if you believe in intuition. Like, do you believe in intuition, like a gut feeling, Casey? Just curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
I
like,
think our bodies are smarter than our brains. We just need to learn how to listen to them.
yeah, I absolutely agree. And guess what? I wasn't listening to my body.
Yeah, exactly.
And my body was giving me all the signs. And when I stopped listening, like when I wasn't listening, like if you're not gonna, you start getting sick, right? So like for me, my vision started like getting blurry, and I didn't like, and like I got glasses, so I thought I needed a new pair of glasses. But what I didn't realize was I had a tumor growing in my brain that was actually pressing down on my optic nerve. And then I kept going to see the doctor, and the doctor was just like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, and they weren't really taking me seriously. And then like, I started throwing up, and then like I could barely see. And then like I was like, this is crazy. So I went to the hospital, and that's kind of like where everything changed. It's like it felt like I was like, we like, the best way to describe it is this: like we all think like we're living these lives where you're kind of like invincible, nothing can touch you. And the whole word cancer is like this, it's a word that it means a lot because we all know someone who's been through it. But the minute you experience a life death experience like an NDE, um, everything changes. Like when people like talk about like near death experiences, what they really do is they completely reset you, and
Mhm.
suddenly you don't give a crap about anything else. Like it's like live or die moment. And that's kind of what happened. um,
Yeah, so you hit that. Obviously, this was rock bottom, right? And that's usually what happens. Like if you just think back to psychology and people making these changes in their lives, typically there are signs for years, right? And it takes that near death experience, or it's a rock bottom to some point, right? It's not always a near death experience, but it's something that all of a sudden that person goes, all right, no more. I have to change, and that's the real difference where it's different for everybody. It's just something that tweaks where it's all of a sudden it's more painful to not change than to change, right?
yeah.
And that change is hard, right? And most of us, although we know it's good for us, we don't change. And I think that's why I wanted to have you on, is that over the last couple months, the world has been forced to change, right? And we are now doing things like this, like you said, happy to be on your stage sort of thing. This is the new stage for the next time being, right? Who
All right.
There's not going to be any live stages anytime soon,
No
right?
way.
And like this is the new reality, right? So we're forced to change, whereas um, and then all of a sudden it's a little bit easier, right? It's like, well, there's no other alternative. I have to do it this way, or what is the alternative, right? So now you have this powerful story that you can use to continue to inspire people, right, through what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what I really hope to do, because like I like it's interesting because like like the experiences we go through in life end up becoming these opportunities that we can really grow and like really find deep and discover who we are. And like I'm so thankful that even though at the time I hated, no one wants to go through cancer, right? But there was all these great side effects out of it, like post-traumatic growth, for example, that really allowed me to fully understand that I do have the power. I can do these things. Like I beat cancer in 4 months. I initially had a prognosis where I'd be dead within 2 years and a 50% survival rate, and like I couldn't walk for 3 years. I have a handicap pass that I have for the rest of my life because the doctor said like I need a double hip replacement and I never got one. So like that's the power of like your own ability to believe in yourself and like to really change the way you think. And like that's the whole idea, because like like you said, Casey, our whole world's been turned upside down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
I like what you just said. There's a lot of great side effects, right? And it's so easy to get caught up in all the negative stuff, right? Like if you turn on the news right now, obviously you can continue to watch negative things, right? And that's a choice ultimately.
yeah.
And with everything that's happening, I think the in terms of what we do, in terms of the conscious builder and the messages that we're putting out there, Mother Nature is very, very happy with everyone right now, because the good side effects, a lot of them are affecting the Mother Nature portion of the world, right? Obviously, there is a lot of bad happening as well, but there is a lot of good coming from this too. And on the personal, if we want to go a little bit more micro into our personal lives, what are some things that you've noticed during the last couple of months that have really been beneficial to you? What are the good side effects now?
Well, I would say like the good side effects of this whole like coming out of the routine is really an opportunity to go within. Because I feel like when as human beings, when we're creatures of habit. So like when we get sucked into what we know, it's easy for us to kind of like not pay attention to what's simmering under the surface, so to speak. But suddenly, like when we're not in our routines, like and you're just with yourself or the people in your lives, like you're in relationships, like it really creates this opportunity where you can actually start asking these deep questions like, am I happy? Do I really enjoy what I'm doing right now? Do I want to be in this relationship? Because like for me, in these past 2 months, I've grown so much, and I've really grown with my wife, who's in another room over there. As like, you know, we've become closer, been stronger, and I've like really had an opportunity to really reevaluate, what do I really want to put my effort and awareness on? Like, what do I want to focus on? So I feel like that's the big benefit for everybody. You know what I mean? Like you just said, Casey, like the benefit from all this is Mother Nature. You know, Mother Nature has a chance to chill. Do we want to go back to normal? You know what I mean? So it's like that's the good side effect.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of things like we're a good where we live, we're a good like 20-minute walk from the grocery store. But it's not really that long of a walk, but we've been actually going out and walking to the grocery store, which we never did before. Right. So we're like, well, might as well just do it because we have time to do it. Right. We don't have all that time travel around to do all the other stuff that we had to do. It's like, well, might as well walk to the grocery store, support the local store. And, you know, ultimately you don't need to start the car. We're driving a lot less because we don't need to go into the city, go into the studio. For myself, a lot of the business meetings that, you know, people would want to meet in person, well, we're just doing it via video call now. And that's the new norm. So it's not, even if somebody kind of wanted to meet, now they're okay with meeting via video, whereas before they didn't want to. Right. So that's been a huge benefit for us. So I'm saving a lot of time driving around personally. And I think, and I'm hoping that a lot of people continue these habits, right? Just because we're allowed and, you know, everything opens up again. Yes, it's going to be different. There's going to be all sorts of new regulations and all sorts of things. But just because you can do something doesn't mean we should be doing it.
Right.
And I'm hoping that a lot of people continue that and they realize the habits that are serving them, right? So you're going within, right? This is a huge opportunity to go within, but somebody else might be just using this as an opportunity to watch more Netflix.
Right.
Right. Probably not the people watching this. But oh yeah, and that reminds me, anybody watching this, if you have any questions, post them. We are watching the questions coming in. So post them and we'll make sure that we can answer them. About anything really, anything we're talking about, anything about Brandon specifically, or anything on Conscious Builder side, we're happy to answer those questions. So anyways, so those are all really good habits that I'm going to continue. I'm doing more workouts at home. I was not doing that before. So now I've started doing a lot of short workouts myself. Right. So I'd always be like, I want to do at least an hour, but why not just do some short 20-minute workouts every day instead of forcing myself to do a whole hour and trying to block off an hour of time, which is sometimes difficult, especially those things that tend to get pushed down the schedule. So what else are you working into your regular routines now that you're going to continue?
Well, I actually, going on what you said, like you can't go to the gym right now, so I've been doing more workouts at home too, which I actually really like. Like I'm really enjoying calisthenics, which is just using your own body weight to work out. I think that's great. It's better for my joints too. I find it's really good. I guess for me, it's some good habits I'm doing is a lot of meditation. I love meditation. Like it's something I do like every day. There's moments where I'll take a break for a while, but I come back to it. But I find more than ever, like being just consciously aware and trying to observe where I am whenever I am. And even like, for example, like when I get triggered, like when I get pissed off, when I get angry, rather than like, you know, before in the past, I would really judge myself about things going a certain way. Like, you know, like I feel like a lot of pain in life comes from judgment, and especially judging ourselves. We should be or behave a certain way. So from one of my friends, Lori was telling me about practicing neutrality, and neutrality is really just observing and not judging what comes up. And I've been doing that lately, and like, damn, does it ever feel good? Like, yeah, I'm angry, I'm pissed, but that's okay. And I'm just gonna let this come up, and like it just goes and it leaves. I'm like, wow, that felt good. Or it's like, you know what, I feel like down on myself, and I'm not gonna judge myself for it. And I'm just a little down, like I'll beat myself a bit, and then like it'll just leave. And it's just like, wow, this is like such a cool practice. So like this neutrality practice is something that like you can tell I'm excited. But like I love doing it because it's like, holy crap, I don't have to judge myself when I feel a certain way. I'm like, that's so empowering. It's like, wow, I don't have my dad talking at me in my head or like, my mom saying this is bad. Like, it's just like, it just completely, it was like a total paradigm shift for me. I'm like, wow. So that is something big that I'm gonna,
So what are you doing to practice that? Because that's obviously easier said than done, right? So
well,
it's
yeah.
easy to say, oh yeah, just don't judge yourself. But then something will happen.
Right. Right. So I guess behind that, it's like kind of like observing. So it's like when you feel yourself, like, for me, like when I feel myself getting triggered, like if someone says something, or whatever that is, just triggers you, you can almost feel it like a physiological response in your body. Because typically when you're triggered, you get angry, you get frustrated, or when you're sad or you're blaming someone else, your body has like an effect. And I know for me, I feel it in my heart. So I can actually feel this like tightening up or loosening. And when I know that happens, I try to just observe, and I can almost hear the thoughts that just want to play out and do something. And sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to do it, but I'll observe myself doing that, and I won't judge myself for feeling that way. So that's kind of the process. It's like observing what's going on and kind of being okay with it being as it is. But I don't know if
So
I
this is
help
exactly
explain.
why I wanted to have you on, because I think this is great stuff, especially right now, because like that's what conscious is, right? Consciousness, right? It's just it's being aware, right? And being aware is exactly that. It's observing. For example, you're talking about a feeling, so something triggers you, you notice it, but then as opposed to getting attached to it,
Right.
you're now aware of it. So it's not about removing that feeling.
No.
It's just about being aware of it and being okay with it, being like, hey, I'm human.
Right.
Shit happens, right? So have you,
Absolutely.
in going through that exercise, have you like realized that there's more triggers? Like there's certain things that trigger you. For example, is it maybe there's food? If you eat certain food, you get triggered more easily, or maybe your wife does or says something that triggers you. Like I've noticed that if my wife says or does something in a certain way, like it'll trigger me, and I've become more and more aware of that. And I'm like, I know it's not her, it's
It's
me,
me.
right? It's something
Yeah.
that's happening that I'm
Yeah,
now becoming aware of.
yeah, totally, man. Like I hear you. Like, especially with my wife, like, I'm a little, I can be a little forgetful sometimes, and actually a lot of the time. And then so like, so I'll always ask, my wife will be like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I know she's probably right. And then the fact that she's right, but I feel like I'm being judged, but she's actually not judging me, but it's me judging myself, if that makes any sense. So it's like that triggers me. Food, yes, in particular, food more than ever now. Actually, I find dairy absolutely triggers my bowels. So,
Okay, now we're
so,
getting into physical triggers.
so without going too much detail there, but I had some Dairy Queen. It was delicious, and it wasn't delicious 2 hours later. Oh yeah, but yeah, it's really cool that we're talking about this, because this is like, when, like you're saying, Casey, like consciousness, this is what this is. And it really is like, you're using it. The more you practice this, it's like working out. It's like you're building that like neural like plasticity. So when something like this happens, when you get triggered, rather than getting fired into reactionary mode, you go into observation mode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and it's really hard to do, because like we've been conditioned and to believe that it's okay to just be victimized and feel victimized, and just like, and to like really just literally fall asleep, if you will. And it takes a lot of effort in the beginning to be aware, but eventually over time it becomes less and less.
Yeah, we all need to keep in mind too that in some cases we're trying to break habits that we've had for years, right? So it's not an overnight
Oh
shift.
yeah.
If it took you 30, 40 years to create this habit, or you've been doing it for that long, don't expect it to happen in overnight or even a year or 2 years. Like it's that it's that change, right? And I've actually, one of the things that I've started to do, and I've been doing this for couple years now is I kind of design my environment to win. So if there's things that trigger me that I have control over, why even put myself in that situation? Right? So if there was a food that I wanted to get rid of, why would I buy that food? Just stop buying it. Don't have it in the house. You're not going to eat it. That's a simple example, right? But another example is I wanted to start flossing. So I just took the floss and I like put it right beside my toothbrush so I wouldn't forget. And every time I go brush my teeth, I'm going to see it. And now all of a sudden I have that habit. Now I actually go to bed, and if I forgot to floss, I'll get out of bed because I've created that habit of doing that.
Same way.
So, there's certain things like that. Have you kind of designed your environment to win, so to speak?
I haven't been as meticulous as you have, but I do things like, where I try to make conscious choices every day that are going to bring me closer to where I want to be in terms of my goals. So I'm always like, I try to use but I know what you mean. Like, developing habits are huge. There was a period where I was like habit crazy. Like, I don't know if you've ever read Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect.
Oh yeah. It's like
he's got like, he's like, yeah, he's that guy where he's just very matter of fact. Like, it's habits. You got to develop habits. Like, habits become who you are, and habits lead to beliefs. And I'm a strong believer in that. I used to have like a habit tracker, like similar to one he has in Excel. And I'd have like basically like 10 habits, like listed down, read like this, like maybe floss my teeth, like work out, like, meditate, like, visualize, like, keep hustling, whatever that is, right? just, and like, I find like it serves me, but I find in this period right now, like, especially with like COVID-19, like, you're right, it's good to have good habits, but I find for me, like, it's like, there's so much changing in my life right now. Like, it's just, habits are good, but like, I'm finding there's a lot of like, okay, this is working, this isn't working. Okay, we're gonna go do this. And so it's a lot of like kind of like pivoting back and forth and finding out what works and what doesn't work. Especially when it comes, yeah.
Well, that's another really great point, because what's funny is, like, if we go back to nature again, and very much, I really love using nature as an analogy for a lot of things, but nature is never the same. It's always changing. And
Absolutely.
as humans, we want things to stay the same, but that's not nature, right? So nature is changing, nature is evolving, and the more comfortable we become with change, the better off we will all be. And once again, easier said than done. It's almost like that muscle. You have to work it out. You have to be able to be comfortable with change, right? As soon as it's so easy to like work, try and achieve something. We all set goals and we want to, get this house done, for example. We want to start this business. We want to, whatever it may be. And then something happens. And then all of a sudden it could be a trigger, which leads into something else, right?
Right. Yeah. I hear you. Like, that's been one of the most, like, I would say probably one of the things I've struggled with most in life is being able to let go of control. And because when you say that, like, not wanting to change or struggling to change, a big part of that is letting go of control. Because, like you were saying, like, as human beings, we all crave certainty. Like, we like routines, we like patterns, we like comfortability, we like comfort. And like, when change comes up in our face and it's like, hey, guess what? You're gonna change? It's like, no. And eventually you get the slap across the face that's so hard, you get diagnosed with brain cancer. I'm like, okay, I'll change now. I'll change. You know what I mean? It's like, but if we can, it doesn't have to get to that point, which is why I think when you're aware and you're conscious, when you start getting the signs, when like, okay, all right, this isn't working. That's not necessarily in my best interest. Okay, maybe it's time to like see what this feels like. And like, okay, this feels pretty good. Let's keep going down this path. Okay, this feels really good. Why the hell was I doing that?
And then, we actually have to question it, right? So instead of just accepting it, I think one of the greatest questions, you know, and I know you don't have kids yet, but I always say Sullivan was our or is our greatest teacher. And there's a one word question that every 5-year-old knows better than anybody else. And that question is why.
Right.
And if you ask that question enough, eventually you get the root of stuff, right? If you just start
Right.
doing stuff and you start to ask yourself why, you know,
Why?
why do I do that? Why
Right.
am I sitting here watching Netflix again? Why am I angry?
Mm,
Why
yeah.
am I eating this food when I know it doesn't feel good? You know, why am I driving, or why am I working at this job that I don't like? And like we just stop asking it. It's almost like maybe because we, as kids, our parents heard it too much, so they beat it out of us. But right, but it's a powerful question.
It really is. And like, I find like why is a very difficult question to ask because it's powerful. Because if you really ask why, it really, uh, it questions your reality. Like, where are you? And like, and kind of like what I talk about, like this is what I'll be talking about tomorrow. I talk about the 5 states of being that really impact the way we show up in life, which how we show up determines the results we have. And what you just mentioned right here really has to do with one of the states I talk about, which I call protective self-expression. And when you're in this state, it's when you become so identified with where you are, like your life conditions. It could be a job, it could be the house, family, man, kids, whatever that is, that this identity really creates this level of safety and comfort. And what happens is you can't see any other possibility, especially when you feel change going on through you. And what happens is this identity that we create around our own lives can end up becoming our own prison because we don't want any of that to change. And even in the face of change. And that's hard because like, you know, we want to protect what we think we know, even though we know change is good. And it's like, it can be this, and that's exactly what happened to me before I got diagnosed with cancer. Like I actually had this out of body experience where I saw how stressed out I was. And I saw how if I didn't quit this job, because my health was deteriorating at this point, right? That something bad would happen. But I didn't want to leave because I was so identified with what this whole career and lifestyle came with, and also making other people happy, right? That I kept going, and that's how I got diagnosed with cancer. My cancer, specifically, like the cancer experience, was a result of stress. I know that for a fact. I know that it was all stress induced. So, and that's because I wasn't listening to myself.
Yeah, that's powerful. Absolutely. Let's talk about what are those 5 states. If you don't mind, I don't know how quickly you can share those, but let's talk about those 5 states and then actually share about that event that's happening tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. So, like these 5 states, I'd really discovered when I was going through the middle of cancer. And I navigated through each one of these states, and I call this the 5 states of being that impact the way we show up in life. And when you these 5 states, 4 of them are disempowering. So we don't want to be in any of these 4 disempowering states. These are the first 4. And it's not like you're in just one state. You can be in multiple states. And then there's this 5th state, which is like where we want to be, which is called authentic self-expression. And the 4 disempowering states, the first one is unconscious self-expression, essentially when we fall asleep and we just like don't question anything and just like keep your head in the sand, if you will. The second one is protective self-expression, which is kind of like where I was talking about, where we get so attached that we can almost go into denial. And the third state is victim, which is, you know, victimized self-expression. And that's when we're just reacting when we have no sense of control. And this state really has to do with the level of pain and suffering that we've created and that has happened in life that we've become identified with. And the 4th state is what I call withdrawn, which is where you don't believe in you. So this really has to do with the relationship of your own self-worth. And any of these 4 disempowering states, basically, if you're showing up in any one of them, they're impacting the way you show up in your life. It could be in your own relationships, it could be in your business, with your kids, with your health, you know what I mean? And bridging this gap from here, these 4 disempowering states, the 5th and final state is what I call inner fortitude. And inner fortitude is kind of like this missing piece that really helped me traverse this whole cancer experience into what I call authentic self-expression. And there's like basically three components of inner fortitude, which I'll go more detail tomorrow. But when you have these three components, you can apply that and do anything. And that's how I beat cancer in 4 months. And basically the fifth and final state, just ending this, just summarizing, is when you feel that you have the freedom to legitimately express your true self in any given moment. And what that means really is about being able to connect with your true self, your inner power, to manifest and create the life you deserve. Because like this is basically when you become in alignment with who you are, and that manifests in every aspect of your life. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to be talking tomorrow, the 5 states of being. And the reason why I'm talking about it is because when you understand these states and when you leverage your own inner fortitude right here, anything's possible. Like I beat cancer in 4 months, and you know, I started my first sales job like 5 years ago, and I became like top sales guy in the national organization within less than a year. But it's because I applied this same approach, and this is like the secret that everyone has, that you can do anything. So that's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow for 15 minutes, and so stoked about it. It's going to be at the WEN Global virtual event, which is happening tomorrow.
We'll be sure to share the link. It's probably already in the chat actually, but we'll share it in the description as well after. So what time, like how long is this event? When do you go on?
It goes on from 8:30 is the networking time if you want to get that, but it starts officially at 9 till like and goes to 4. So if you're not a member of WEN Global, it's free as a guest. You can go from 9 till 12. There's going to be various guest speakers, including myself, Kevin Harrington, you probably heard of him from the Shark Tank, Steve Lowell, Jane Lowell, Sunil Tasani, Linda Cousineau, and it's just a really empowering event to really connect with, really like this mentality of like, you know, really, you know, taking your life to the next level, like no matter what's going on. And we've got a lot of great people to talk about that stuff. So you'll have the event if it's not shared right now, and you can just register and it's free.
That's great. So I've been to an event like that, and I've been to other similar events. They're always great. Like, and those are the things that, you know, this is the going to the gym portion for our minds, right? Just like meditation, right? This is the stuff that you need to continuously hear. Even though you say, no, I've been there, I've heard that before. It doesn't matter. I've also worked out before, but I'm going to keep working out. I've worked on my business before, but I'm going to continue working on my business. I've made this process better before, but I'm going to make it better again. Right. It's just never ending. That's part of life. You just continue to flow. You continue to get better. You figure out what works and what doesn't work, and you do more of what works. And then all of a sudden what was working is going to stop working, and you got to shift and do something else. Right. And that's the other thing, is that, you know, our circumstances change, life changes, right? Nobody could have necessarily predicted this COVID-19 thing. And all of a sudden we have to be able to change, right? And all of a sudden everybody's okay with it, right? Everybody will kick and scream, but as soon as you have to do something, well, what are you going to do? There's no point in kicking and screaming. You got to do it anyways.
Right. Absolutely.
So the difference here is you have a choice. You can either go to the event or not go to the event. You can go to it doesn't have to be that event. It can be other events too, or you can not go to it, right? You can decide to read a book, or you can decide to watch something else that's not going to serve you. You can go for a walk, or you can enjoy nature, or you can sit inside and do nothing, right? So it's, we all have choices, and we want to continuously make choices that are serving us. But to your point at the beginning of this conversation, stop judging ourselves if we happen to make a choice that maybe we didn't agree with after.
Right. I think that's one of the hardest things to do, is not to judge yourself. It's like, yeah.
So what are you most excited about coming in the future, whether it's right now, it could be anything, could be personal side, could be business related. I know you got lots of things going on, but what's got you most pumped up right now?
I'm really excited about tomorrow. Super stoked about tomorrow. Like, you know, like tomorrow's going to be huge. Like it's a good audience. A lot of people are going to be attending. I'm really stoked about tomorrow. That's my big thing right there. And I'm also developing a program too, which I'm going to be implementing in the next couple of weeks, which is going to be great. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited for summer. It's so beautiful outside. Like, come on, like we had snow 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? Like I woke up one day and I forget what day it was, and like it was snowing, and there was snow on the roofs, and it hadn't melted. And I was like, and it was May. I was like, it's part of being Canadian. Like we endure the. I love winter, but like I love my summer too. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Just like spending time in nature too, Casey. I'm just like you. I love nature. I gotta be in nature. You know what I mean? Like for me, like nature is like where I ground, like especially next to the water. So I'm really looking forward to spending some time in the water or like next to water, camping, stuff like that, getting out there. Like I feel like I've been indoors way too much. I just got it.
Yeah.
I just want to
I've been sitting here way too much myself too. So
I know my butt hurts from like I like stretch every like hour or so.
So for all the people listening, watching, I think especially the business owners, business is like 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. Doesn't matter how good you are at your craft. It's all about psychology. And I remember actually when I started my construction company going on 11 years now.
Wow.
I remember Natasha actually at the time was doing her master's in clinical psychology. And I'm just like, yeah, that's good, but I'll never need to know that stuff. That's all I do now, right? That's all I read books on. That's all I basically work on myself. Yeah. Everything I'm doing is essentially, for the most part, 80% of what I'm doing is working on psychology to some extent, whether it's my own psychology. It's always starts with myself, but then it's talking to different people and different, whether it's a client or a subcontractor or a team member, everybody's different. So understanding people and how to interact with people and figuring out what makes them tick is like everything I do now. And you are the same, right? Especially being in sales. That's what sales is, right?
Sales is a lot of psychology.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mostly for yourself, because you gotta, pick up the phone or send that email or
oh my God,
knock on the door or whatever it may be.
Don't even get me started. I've been on the phone so much lately, doing online demos and everything. It's crazy.
So I definitely recommend everybody listening, check out all the stuff that Brandon's working on. Check out the One Global event tomorrow. We'll share some links. Brandon, I don't know if there's anything else you want to share with people.
Well, I could probably share my website, but I can't type that out right now. So it's www.bjames.fong, F-O-N-G at G. No, sorry, I was giving my email. It's so close to my email. I didn't mean to do that. Well, now I got my email too. So it's live. It was all planned. It's brandonjfong.com. That's very close to bjames.fong@gmail.com.
That's Brandon is BRANDON.
jfong.com. So that's my website. So you can go on there. You can communicate with me via there too. You'll have my email, which I announced on the call as well.
But I definitely recommend if you're not working on yourself, it's to some extent, definitely if this hasn't inspired you to do so, connect with Brandon. I think there's so much going on out there, and especially now more than ever, we need to continue to support each other, and we need to continue to work on our mindset, and we need to continue to put out great stuff like this. So Brandon, thank you for taking the time to share this and put it out there, and continue to do everything that you do and work on what you work on.
Dude, Casey, it's been a real blessing, and I've always really appreciate you, like having you in my tribe. And I just want to say that you're doing good stuff here, and it's like a great medium to just like have a great message in a very conscious way. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun. Having conversations like this, what makes it worth it. So,
yeah.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right.